So I've been a professional software engineer going on 8 years now, and today I'm going to share some of the things that I've learned in that time. Now, no, I don't work for a big FANG company, I didn't start my own business, and I don't get up at 5 a.m. every day and go to the gym for 3 hours. Let's be real. I mean, most software engineers don't do that. I actually think I have more realistic advice to provide for the majority of software engineers that are out there, rather than a lot of the kind of niche upper tier developers that I see on here. Today I'm going to give you some no-nonsense advice that will really help you out in your software engineering career. Now make sure you stay to the end of the video for my final tip, which I definitely think is the most valuable out of all of these. So the first tip I have for you is to practice your soft skills. In my 8 years, I've noticed that the majority of software engineers lack soft skills.
Hello, IT? Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Things like communication, professionalism, creativity, leadership, persuasion. If you master these, you're going to be light years ahead of your peers. I would say that if I had to pick one skill out of all of these, it would have to be communication. Being able to effectively communicate your thoughts to upper management, being able to translate technical jargon into layman's terms for non-technical audiences, and being able to communicate your wants and needs with the rest of your team is really going to make you a standout software engineer. Especially if you ever have thoughts of going into management or moving up the ladder.
So effective immediately, I am promoting you from assistant to the regional manager to assistant regional manager.
Communication will be key along with every other soft skill. Realization number 2, tip number 2, you probably aren't gonna code as much as what you thought. Unless you work in a FANG company or cutting edge tech where tech is the main product, the majority of a lot of your work is actually gonna be solving business problems.
Houston, we have a problem.
One of your key skills as a software engineer is your ability to critically think about things, and businesses will tap into that to have you help solve a lot of their critical business problems.
We need you to draw 7 red lines, all of them strictly perpendicular, some with green ink and some with transparent. Can you do that?
There are going to be a lot of days where you play somewhat of a business analyst by critically analyzing these things and helping the company solve them. There's many days where I don't write a single line of code.
What would you say you do here?
I spend a lot of time brainstorming ideas. I'm in meetings with upper management trying to help come up with solutions to business problems. I'm helping fix a connectivity issue with some software we have, so I'm helping with general development support work, putting together a report for upper management. There's just a lot of days where I don't code a lot. That's not to say that I don't have days where that's all I do is code the entire day, but just don't be surprised to find that a lot of days you aren't going to be coding as much as what you thought you would. Realization number 3 is end users don't care as much about the software as you do. As software engineers, we pour our heart and souls into the code that we write. As a result of that, we're very proud of the software when we release it to be used. Just be aware that the users of your software, the majority of the time, they're not gonna feel the same way.
Ain't nobody got time for that!
So don't be discouraged or deflated if when you release a piece of software, it gets nitpicked, or nobody comments on how well it worked, or nobody notices that text hover effect that you spent 2 days working on.
See, nobody cares.
Now, this isn't to say that you shouldn't take pride in your work. By all means, go above and beyond on your project. I just want you to have realistic expectations so that when you release these things, you aren't disheartened by the lack of user praise, I guess.
You know how I feel. Why would you say that? Like, you put me in such an uncomfortable situation.
End users aren't just gonna have the same level of appreciation for clean code that we as software engineers do. Realization number 4 is don't kill yourself with personal projects. I see too often where people still seem to have this tendency that software engineers are supposed to just have this huge portfolio of personal pet projects outside of their normal 9 to 5. I gave into this in my younger years, and guess what? I burnt myself out as a result. Now, if you find yourself passionate about a project that you want to work on in your free time, by all means go about it. I just don't want you to feel like you have to do that. I actually learned a lot in college in my own exploration of coding projects and things outside the scope of the classroom that really helped me kind of excel and become more proficient than a lot of my classmates. Just don't feel pressured into slaving away hours of your evening working on these things just because you feel like you have to. You sit in front of a screen for 8 hours a day. Don't sit in front of a screen for several more hours every evening. Realization number 5, stop chasing perfection because it doesn't exist. You're gonna find that, especially with tight deadlines, sometimes you're gonna have to push software out that isn't quite perfect.
Blind! Deploy the garrison!
Now, I'm not saying push out software that's completely broken, but sometimes, if there's a screen that doesn't quite look up to your standards or something takes a little longer to load than you would like, sometimes you're just gonna have to push it out there to meet deadlines, meet the customer requirements. We actually ask a lot of candidates in interviews that we do whether they would be perfect and late or good and on time on their projects. Obviously, we prefer the latter of that answer. Realization 6 is do not skimp on your logging and exception handling. Well thought out logs and exception handling are worth their weight in gold. I've seen it too many times where developers will have a SQL table with a single bit field for a delete flag. And then what happens is 6 months down the road, a user deletes 100 records, and now you have no clue who deleted them, when they were deleted, or why they were deleted.
I didn't do it.
That's where having audit trails and logs comes in handy because you can easily find out who did that. Exception messages should also pull in as much state data as possible. Users have an error come up and the developers aren't able to replicate it. But when you have access to all of the data that was currently on the user's screen, it's a lot easier to do. All of these things combined are going to drastically decrease your time to solve bugs or issues that arise.
Your job? Find the bug.
Tip 7 is never stop learning. Keep an eye out for more efficient ways to do stuff. You're going to be surprised that the way you've done something for years, there might be a new framework or technology that's come along that cuts your workload in half if you switch to it.
This is so much better.
If you find something that has great support, a good community, and good documentation, and you think it's going to work better for what you need, go ahead and try it out, switch to it.
Just do it!
Software and tools are constantly evolving, so don't allow yourself to become stagnant and get left behind.
No one gets left behind.
Realization 8, master your Google Foo skills. We don't expect any software engineer to have the answers for everything, nor do we expect them to be a walking dictionary or thesaurus with just a multitude of information. Now, there are people that you will encounter in your career that are like that, but the majority of people aren't. What we do expect, though, from a good software engineer is someone that if they don't know the answer to something, they can find it. And so being able to come across a problem with your code or a framework, being able to translate that into a very searchable keyword to get, quick results and find what's going on is going to really help you out. Now, there are newer tools, obviously, ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot, things like that. Obviously, that's going to make finding answers to your coding questions a lot easier, but until those become a bit more mainstream, still just going to Google, doing research on things and absorbing the knowledge quickly to find out the answers to questions you have really comes in handy. So before we get into realization number 8, I would just ask that if any of these tips have kind of helped you out, or if you enjoyed the video, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and giving me a like and subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. I love providing this content to you guys out there, and I plan on making more software engineering related videos in the future as well. So without further ado, let's get to realization number 8. And that's going to be that readable code is better than clever code. So software engineers are always trying to figure out how to condense their code down as much as possible, to be as minimalistic as possible.
Why waste time? Say lot word when few word do trick.
And we also try to maximize performance as best as we can to squeeze out every bit of speed out of our code base. However, once this starts to reach the point where the readability of the code starts to suffer, you might need to rethink your strategy or rethink trying to refactor the code beyond recognition. In my opinion, readability is the most important thing when it comes to having a well-maintained code base, especially if this is a code base that's going to be shared among a team. I mean, you can write the fastest, most performant, concise code that the world has ever seen, but if no one can read and understand it, is it really that good? Try to write your code so that it reads like a book. I try to always name my variables very specifically, and you can have long variable names. And I try to write function names that very clearly describe what's going on, and the whole intent is so that anyone, even a non-programmer, should be able to look at a block of code and understand at least a high level what is going on and what that chunk of code is doing. I promise that if you focus on maintaining very high levels of readability in your code, the rest of your team will notice, and you're going to be someone that they go to write projects and do things for them, because they know that you're going to be able to put together code that the rest of the team can easily pick up and work with. Alright, and there you have it. That's some of the things that I've learned over the last 8 years as a software engineer. Some things I learned quickly, other things took me years to pick up on. So I hope this video helps you get up to speed and gives you a little bit of insight into some things if you're a new software engineer getting ready to start your career, if you're still in school, or even if you've been doing this for a few years and some of these things you haven't quite picked up on yet. I hope this helped you out. If you have any other realizations or tips or things that you've picked up on, leave a comment down below. Let everyone else know what you got, or if you have any other questions that you're interested in that I could help answer, comment down below and let me know. But until next time, guys, see you later.